Welcome this afternoon to everybody. We'll open our ICM meeting and be underway. We'll just open with our meeting prayer. Thanks. Heavenly Father, we come to you today asking for your guidance, wisdom and support as we begin this meeting. Help us engage in meaningful discussion. Allow us to grow closer as a team and nurture the bonds of community. Fill us with your grace, Lord God, as we make decisions that will affect the ratepayers, all our citizens, staff and stakeholders of our district. And continue to remind us that what we do here today, all that we accomplish is for the pursuit of truth, for the greater benefit of our people and the Te Rua. We ask these things in your name. Amen. Well, thank you everybody. We're all present. We do have 3 councillors just waiting to get an access to Teams down in Levin, and we have Brian on the screen, so that's all we need to do for the moment, isn't it? So we'll get underway, thank you. Any apologies? No apologies. Public forum, Ellie, we have no in public forum. Any notifications, councillors of business not notified? Okay. Any declarations of conflicts of interest? No conflicts, thank you. We'll just move on to the minutes of the last meeting of 19th of March. So I'll just go through those page by page for the moment. Page 1, page 2, page 3, page 4, page 5. If there's nothing to request, will someone move and second the minutes? Thank you. Councillor Steve and Councillor Peter, all in favour? Thank you. Councillors, we will move on to the agenda, which is reports. Right, Hamish, we'll leave it in your hands for the management report. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Kerry, and good afternoon, everybody. I'll invite the group managers up bit by bit. So we're starting with the transport team. Dan and Andrew would like to join us at the front there. We'll just talk through how things are going.
Welcome, Dan and Andrew, for your report.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'll just start with a high-level summary just regarding our renewal program, as we are starting to come to the end of the season. So the big focus for us at the moment is to finish off that program before the weather changes too much, as we are noticing that it is starting to get colder and starting to get wetter. So with resurfacing, so we have completed our resurfacing program with the 65 kilometres of roads that we had initially programmed all completed. So it's a big achievement for us, as it's one of the larger programs that we've had to date with the resurfacing side of things. Rehabilitations, I've gotten a report that Aerodrome Road is coming to its finishing stages and was planned to get sealed early April, so that has now been completed. So we had a good window the other day, so that's now been completed, and the rehab sites on Route 52 and Maharahara have started. So fingers crossed a little bit around the weather plays in our favour, so we're hoping to have those sites completed by May, essentially. Maintenance, so priorities are shifting a little bit in the maintenance space, so road maintenance works will start slowing down as it gets wetter, and we'll start changing our focus on unsealed road maintenance and just other general cyclic maintenance that we undertake. In regards to Terra Alliance update, so we've put an entry in for the Route 52 project into the Apopo Asset Management Awards, and we've been selected for a finalist for the community category, which we put the Route 52 project into. So that award ceremony is on the 15th of May, so fingers crossed we get a good outcome out of that. This will be good for us to get another award under the belt. And just regarding some staff movements, so we had a delivery manager role vacant over the last few months, and we've recently appointed Blake Headley into that position. Blake was previously was the recovery manager, and with the work that he's done over the last few years with the cyclone recovery works, he's certainly been recognised for that, and has been selected as a suitable candidate for the delivery manager role. So now he's overseeing all the basically operational works that the Alliance undertakes. And one that I haven't mentioned in the report, is mentioned in the report, is around asset manager position. We're currently in the stages of putting an offer forward to a suitable candidate for that. So yeah, we'll hopefully be able to provide an update in the next meeting regarding the outcome of that one. I'll hand it over to Andrew.
Afternoon all. Apologies for the section 3.2. There is a section that's missing, which is introducing the targeted fund resilience, but I'll give you a bit of a brief overview about what that is. So essentially, the low cost, low risk program that goes alongside the NLTP program for the current 3-year period. NZTA didn't approve any funding for that when the NLTP was announced, or the final funding for the NLTP. And they've been essentially just not sitting on their hands, but essentially working out what that delivery looks like. So on the back of Cyclone Gabriel and all the storm events, they've released basically a targeted fund for resilience, which essentially is there to look to strengthen up road networks and bits and pieces. That was the guidance for that was finally released in February, and over February, March, we were developing an application to present to NZTA to try and gain the additional funding. Or gain additional funding to support the, I suppose, improvements to the network. And I'm pleased to announce we've gained another $3.1 million to help improve our roading, our drainage infrastructure and the like. So what we've done is basically we've done a bit of a, on the back of, I suppose, the cyclone recovery, we've identified a whole bunch of low cost treatments that we can add to the network to help improve the resilience of the network and reduce the impacts of storm events. So typically when in Cyclone Gabriel, we had 436 small dropouts occur around the district, which typically have an average of $20,000 to $50,000 to repair them. And what we were finding is basically with some additional drainage work, a bit of culvert upgrades or culvert outlet treatments, we could potentially prevent those types of, reduce the likelihood of those failures occurring. So trading off a culvert upgrade, which is approximately about $7,000 for a $50,000 dropout, logically makes sense. So the funding that we presented forward was basically trying to get the fence at the top of the cliff as opposed to the ambulance at the bottom of the cliff type approach. It does support the NLTP drainage bid that we placed forward, which we didn't get approved because the response we had from NZTA is we didn't have enough detail. Essentially, over the last few months we've developed that detail, which is presented forward. So yeah, we were successful in that, which we received. We were expecting to receive $2 million, and we got the full 3.1 approved, and that's spread over the next 2 financial years. So it's that funding has been approved as part of the long-term plan, as part of the NLTP budget. So it's basically just allowing us to continue the work that we were planning in this period, which is great news, essentially. Further to that, with the Stateway 3 revocation and the Detour Road handback, we are still awaiting the NZTA business case for the revocation of the gorge itself, which also includes obviously the section of road leading up to the gorge. We have a meeting planned after Anzac Day with a number of NZTA representatives, so we can get all in the same room and actually talk about it, because there's been a few conversations going on around between the various different parties, and I just want to get on the same page. But essentially, until we get the business case back from NZTA, that they won't commit to much, but watch this space. And beyond that, that's I suppose the network management side of things. Does anyone have any questions or queries that they would like to present?
Councillor, just if it would be suitable, if we just go to transportation part 3.2, and I'll just take this, Councillor Sharon and has got questions. Are you happy if we just take questions regarding that part? The transportation, happy with that? Okay. Right. Councillor Sharon.
Thanks, Chair Kerry. Thanks for allowing us to dial into this one. So I missed the start, sorry, Andrew, through you, Chair Kerry. So the chunk of money you were talking about, is that what I read in the report as some resilience funding, in particular for Beach Hill Road at Akatio? Andrew, is that, or have I missed? There was a number of projects that you had targeted that you were hoping to get the funding for to address. Was Beach Hill Road
Yes,
on that one?
yeah, number 4 of that, the targeted fund is we presented the Beach Hill forward as a, I suppose, one of the targeted projects, whereas the other, the items listed 1, 2, 3 were more of a broader culvert maintenance. But yes, Beach Hill will get a bit of work to try and stabilise particularly the roadside side of things. It's not the full treatment outside of the road reserve, which is a wider
Right.
discussion that needs to be brought in with Horizons Regional Council and the like. So.
Yeah, so you're looking at stabilisation, and the time frame on that, is that over 2 years, Andrew, that money is?
So yeah, the targeted fund is phased over 2 years. Beach Hill itself is likely to go ahead next summer, given what it is, and it's just given the type of work it is.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Chair Carey.
Through you, Chair. Just going to say that that's really good news to get 3.1 million. Really excellent. It will come in handy. And resilience is the name of the game. Thank you.
Thank you through you, Chair Carey. Do we have an update on the Te Ahua Turanga Manawatu Tararua Highway Recreation Path Fund?
So that will be discussed after the meeting we have in after Anzac. We haven't heard anything back from them at the Alliance for that.
Can I just add to that? We have put an application in for the funding.
So 295,000.
Correct. So we're just waiting to hear back. We haven't heard anything yet. Can I also just add, while I have the floor, add to the fact that the funding that they received for the resilience was 3% of the nation's total. So there was only $100 million available for the whole country, and we've got 3% of it. So it's really telling the guys have done really well proving their case. So well done.
Thanks, Chair Carey. I was just going to give an update. I have followed up with the recreational path funding with Waka Kotahi, and they were hoping to chase that up this week and next week. So I'll keep chasing that.
Thank you, Mayor Tracy. Just while we're on Beach Hill, I did have a note for myself here, Andrew and Hamish. So a couple of years back, we all looked at the significant area of concerns which are higher up into the hill and to each side of the area. That's still something we're just looking at longer term, aren't we, Andrew? I think, is it? Perhaps.
Yes, I suppose from the roading side of things we're focused on the resilience of the road, but we are aware of the broader mass landslide issue, or the potential for mass landslide there. It is going outside of the realm of the roading function to treat the land stability of the broader side of things. It's bigger than just roading, I suppose, is the response without an opinion put on the top of it.
And so I just wondered, we were quite concerned about that going back 3 years. Is that still being monitored by Horizons or anybody? Just a matter of interest.
Do you know anything about it?
So I'm not aware of Horizons actively monitoring anything there. Probably as a council, we need to get together and probably form up a bit of a strategy about that area as a group. Because it's Horizons Regional Council, it's various different functions that need to put input into it. So.
Thanks. Any other councillors have questions re the transportation? We're just dealing with 3.2 in a bit of a lump basis, councillor. Okay. I just had a comment then, if everyone's happy with that a great report, team, with this, and I think I'm sure Sharon and myself, Sharon, but I do know I've had some really positive feedback about the work you've done, and basically around the photographs. That work and some other work has been commented on really well. So I think we're all pretty happy in here about the way the roading's gone and Alliance is performing, and the quality of the work that's coming through is great. So just take that back to your teams from here. I'm sure everyone will be happy with that. So thanks so much.
Thank you, Chair. Councillors, where to start, I suppose? I'll take it as read. There's a fair bit going on. I'm happy to step through it. As we can see though, just as a bit of an overview, you can see there from the Water Shortage Management Committee perspective, we are still tracking that there's the potential for this month to be dry, so we are just managing that as we go through it, and we'll be reviewing that as well into the start of the new month. So yeah, I'm happy to walk through the rest of it though, if you'd like. Chair.
Mike, would you just like questions from the councillors regarding the three waters, or?
Yeah, effectively, if I'll just step through it, if there's any
okay.
questions around the water shortages.
All right, you just carry on and we'll wait till your end.
Cool.
Thank you.
Yep, we've also had the Woodville Bore water notice, so I'll take that section as read. However, we are still working through some negotiation with Te Mata Arawai as to their looking into it as well, to making sure that we're all above board on there. What I have included in this report though is just an overview as to our intended new reservoirs, and also one of the potential fixes that we did identify afterwards as a potential animal ingress point. Unfortunately, concurrently with that, we also had the Danville compound supply. We had a bit of a spike in turbidity from there. That was noticed at the 2050 manhole. From there, we got our underwater drone put in. We had a look around. We did notice that one of the pinholes had appeared to have failed. From there, it also looked like it had dragged in a part of the PVC pipe, unfortunately. We did manage a quick turnaround with New Plymouth Underwater, and they carried out the patch last week. We have seen since a fall in outflow, and we are currently getting the drone back in the water again to check the rest of the sites as well. They did do it concurrently while they were there. They also did go around and check the other sites as well. So again, that's forming part of our just ongoing standardisation for the process for actually putting the underwater drone in. There's a few little nuanced pieces around getting around curtains and identifying where it is in the water and things like that, but yeah, it's working out really well. No questions on that one. Cool, the Danville compound supply intake metering. So it's us provide a bit of a look at where we'd gotten to with that. So at the end of last year, we'd managed to put in off-take flow meters. I've just put in essentially the raw data there. Effectively though, for that intake line, at this stage, it doesn't seem to be that we're losing all too much, should I say, to those off-takes along that intake line based on the data.
Thank you, Chair Curry. Yeah, firstly, great report. This is very explicit, and probably we've been wanting these type of data in front of us. It tells a story. I was just extrapolating out what you've said, and it scares me a little bit about that on page 27. If we go with that figure, just for the 96-day period, and if we put a dollar value at the end of it, that's around about $94,800 that we've lost over 96 days. So probably any work we do on that intake line must be cheap over time. Two fronts, one with I see you putting in meters, checking all the historical and amount of water are going from different pump sheds, etc. Because if we can get that tidied up, because you know, I'm just using that $3.95 on that unit above urban users, rural users that we for extra use of water, but it makes it look cheap. The fix, in my mind.
Thank you. Through your chair, is just a point of clarity as well, is that the first part here is about the intake line, and that is to the impound. From page 27, that part there is from the impound to our treated reservoir, and that part there is something that we are a bit concerned about. As you can see, that as you say, that is quite a high usage. We assess that it is usage based on the fact that from the data indicates that from Monday to Friday it's an increase and decreases on Saturday, Sunday. So we'd assume that it's not just that it's a loss, that it is likely usage. So on that, we do need to better understand that line, and we'll be looking at metering it further. We're also doing a condition assessment in regards to that pipeline. But yeah, I think, I don't want to go on a record for how much it is, but I do know that it is definitely one that is of a concern to us, so we want to understand that picture better.
Thanks, Chair Kerry. If the increase is Monday to Friday, it suggests it's not rural offtake, it's not a farming offtake, it's town offtake. To some industry close by that must be tapped into it.
Potentially. I mean, there's a varied amount of suggestions in this, suggestions on that. We're not going to know any better until we actually get into doing flow metering and make sure that we can, again, as I say, better understand the picture.
Councillor Steve, sorry, Mike.
Through you, Chair, when would the timeline, when we better understand where that water is going, please?
Something that we are currently urgently working on. Currently, I'm trying to get that flow meter as well into the reservoir as well, and so there's that. Yeah. Once I get a few of these other pieces in place, we'll better understand that. And yeah, again, I suppose like from a resourcing point of view, it's been quite challenging. On that, we're a small team, but we are getting through a fair amount. Overall, I'd say it's definitely been a busy few months been in the role, and the team are working through a lot of these pieces, and we are getting through a lot, so I'm very happy with where we're going. But once I do have a firmer picture of it, I will definitely get it back to you.
Mike, could I just ask a couple of questions? Just to clarify things for myself. So the Dannevirke impound, the intake metering, that's from the source to the impounded supply. So have we now got fresh metering at the intake and at the supply? There are a couple of pump sheds in here, John Lamonson's pump shed, and there's 2 pump sheds there. So are we effectively now quite accurately getting measurement right at the intake almost, and then impounded supply? But that was a little bit hard to handle at the moment. It didn't seem to be that much, did it? But I was just more interested in the metering at the intake, actually.
Yeah, effectively we are. Yeah, correct.
We have got a new metering in there, have we?
Yeah, and we've got metering coming out of the impounders now. That is, so we need one at the treated reservoir side, and we need it essentially moving back from the intake line, going down that way.
Right, so
going up, right up to the reservoir and then out into town.
So just on that, so that area there are a number of farms and lifestyle blocks on that, and so some of the issues could be water loss, couldn't it? Somewhere perhaps.
Potentially, and this is leaks, what I mean is that, like at the minute we're making some pretty bold assessments based on the data, but until we understand the picture better, we could be also looking at daisy chains of people connected onto it. Again, we can only meter what we know as a connection as well without walking the entire line. So there's a fair amount of work to go into understanding that picture.
And just following on from Councillor Peters' inquiry, from the impounded supply to treated reservoir, there's no residential connections or anything there, isn't there? there's only a couple of farms, some farms and possibly lifestyle blocks. Mike, is that the case here?
Potentially, I'd have to confirm that. I don't have that in front of me.
I don't think I think that goes one, because I'm certain that's the case, but.
From our point of view, is from that whole piece, is that from the intake to the impound for us, as we can see by the data, isn't too much of a concern for our offtake. We also understand that that's raw water. The concern for us is that from the treatment plant to the reservoir is treated water, and that's quite a significant amount. And that part there is treated water that we're obviously processing. So to understand that is our next step.
Yeah, thank you. Maybe someone in the room might be able to answer the question. Historically, from what I was led to believe, anyone that was on those lines previous was allowed to connect one trough and one house for one family. So that was back in the day, because I'm just trying to qualify what's now, what was then and what's now, because some of those houses have got workers' houses on them, and it's not one trough and one house, that same entity. And as you know, in different ones here, example one on page 26 there, that's a conglomerate of other places to form one. Because on average it's 250 cubic metres per day. Yeah, I'm just trying to get a picture, and a clear picture, and join the dots together, what we had, which they're entitled to, legally or not, I don't know, qualify that for the council and our ratepayers, and then going forward to where we sit today. But this work that you're doing is, as you say, it's in early days, but we've heard this for 3 years, nearly. Great work. I'm trying to get some more answers. I know you guys are under a lot of work, but that figure there, if 96,800, it's cheap if we get onto it and stop it, because the whole town stops with no water.
Mayor Tracy and Sharon, Councillor Sharon, I think.
Oh, no.
Thanks, Chair Kerry. I might be able to shed some light on the trough and one connection. That's actually by easement in Ekahuna. That doesn't exist, to the best of my knowledge, in Dennyview.
Thanks, Chair Kerry. I'm not 100% certain I've got my facts right. The Dennyview compounded, the impounded supply intake metering, that Laws Road, Pumpshed, John Lamison and Redlands Farm, are those pumps pumping from the intake line? Not out of actually from the intake line? And they're the only ones taking on the intake line?
They are the three that we currently know of.
Right. There could be others.
Yes, I mean, we don't know. But I mean, unless we're able to dig up the whole thing, we wouldn't. So what we can say is that those are the three that we know of and we can meter. Again, the data indicates that it's not really like we were losing a lot of water. So, but once we have like a better flow meter at the intake source, we'll be able to better water balance and understand the rest of that in more detail as well. Again, so I suppose the concerning part there is genuinely is that transmission pipe between the water treatment plant.
I take it the fact that they've got pumps on them, there's insufficient pressure in that intake line to supply without a pump. So therefore, if anybody else is taking water, they'd be in the same boat. They either put a pump in, or it could be feeding troughs at low pressure perhaps, but that would be about all.
Yeah, I mean, it's a likely assessment. The intake line is gravity, so.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for this work, and it's just it's really good because it's getting a more and more accurate picture, because previous to this we were just estimating what we were losing. So looking at these figures, this is a lot less than what we thought originally. It is yeah, I'm just making sure that I've got that right. Yeah, thank you.
I think, councillors, the information regarding the raw water is less than we thought. Actually, there's no doubt about that. The water from impounded supply to the treated water is a little more concerning, and that Councillor Steve makes a point. That, if you, at 250 litres a day per household, there's, a dozen houses per day. So that's, I think it's good we're onto the detail and working towards the right results. So thanks for that, Mike.
So I just know that it's come up a few times, so I just thought I'd provide another bit of an update to that prior to a chemical relocation. We have done a fair bit of work on it already, and we are looking at putting in, the only current part now is just very understanding what kind of foundation we put underneath it, but we're pretty set to have this all organised for an installation date. It's looking really positive in that way. So that'll be one less problem with the prior to a plant.
Yeah, just a quick one on that one. Great to see these buildings put in place. I was surprised that it wasn't put in place at the beginning, way before your time, when they built that building. Is there any other buildings in our network that have got chemicals in that are not to that spec? Because otherwise we built that water treatment plant in Paiatua, and we know what happened with the chemicals in the wrong place.
Through you, Chair. I'm not tracking currently any other concerns with any of the other chemical locations of storage. This is the only one that I'm currently aware of, and yeah.
Thanks very much, Mr. Chair. Still just on the chemical relocation, I didn't quite pick it up, Mike. When did you say that that was likely to be in place, so built and in place? Did you mention a date? So
No, I don't have an installation date at this point. It is a prefab construction though that they would be looking at just dropping off on site. At the moment, the current conversation is just trying to understand what kind of foundation that we need, whether or not we need to cut up the ground, whether or not we can just put it down on the concrete surface that's already there. Everything else has been ironed out, it's just understanding that picture. But once I have that date, I'll provide an update.
thanks, Mr. Chair. Are we comfortable just from a health and safety perspective not having it in place yet? And, I suppose, have we worked through the timelines? I know it's popped up as a concern. I just want to make sure that we have been considering that and that the timelines don't get pushed out with it.
No, it's certainly an urgent matter for us to get into and to address. And that was one of the ones that we picked up as soon as it got into it, was this work. It's just been understand the picture, make sure that there's make sure that operations aren't also adversely impacted by just sort of dropping in a shed somewhere and putting the chemicals in there. Like, it still needs to make sense operationally, which we've done now, and it's been organised. So yeah, it is just the final stages, and we will have a date shortly. Carrying on. Yep, so the Woodville Pond 2 liner, so yes, we are currently working through a business case to outline future considerations, and I'd like to put that forward as well to this committee in the near future. Pongaroa, so it came to our attention that we had a bit of remediation work that we needed to get underway, as there was a bit of an erosion at the outfall bank due to broken outfall pipe. I've included some of the pictures there and some of the voids under the concrete walkways. We are able to manage this effectively with the budgets that we have available, and we have scheduled that work as well for the 28th of April at the same time, we've also made sure that, you know, our horizons and iwi are also tracking this project.
Councillor Sharon, thanks.
Thanks, Chair Kerry, for picking up on that. Thanks, Mike. A little just a query about at Pongaroa. Are the locals aware of this issue? You've mentioned Horizon and iwi, but I haven't been at a recent Pongaroa Way to Go meeting, but these are normally some things that they like to make sure they've had a heads up on. So anyone locally aware of this?
I couldn't give you an answer to that. I'm unsure if anybody has raised it with anybody in the Pongaroa community. I could definitely look at making sure that there are some forms of comms put out to them.
I'm happy to help facilitate that if you want, Mike. I think they'd be keen to understand there are some issues there.
Yeah. Public report, I'm happy for it to be copied and passed over to them. Yes, so there's a few that I want to start bringing up as well that we definitely want to carry on working. So trade waste is certainly one of them, as well as the future ones for us as well to start bringing here will be also backflow prevention as well, and a universal water metering. So I'll be looking at actually looking at a bit of a workshop setting as well to understand the implications of universal water metering and backflow as well in the near future, and that'll be with trade waste sort of thing as well, sort of brings into that as well. I wanted to highlight some of the fees and charges that we would look at in the hopefully near future, let's say. So the current DMV wastewater treatment plant was upgraded recently, as you're all tracking. One of those ones that we don't currently charge for in trade waste would be phosphorus, and the other one would be nitrogen. So the nitrogen will likely be a next upgrade to the wastewater treatment plant that will be required, likely for the future consents and the wastewater standards. So these are some of the considerations that we need to start thinking about anyway when it comes to future charging of fees and charges anyway for trade waste. So I just wanted to table that as something that we need to start looking at considering in the near future.
Thanks, Chair Kerry. Unfortunately, Mike, I left my ears at home today by mistake. I'm having great difficulty hearing a lot of what you're telling me. Yeah, if you could, please. Yeah, thank you.
Yep. Hopefully that's a bit better. I sound a lot louder to myself. Yep. Cool, so the sludge management part as well. So we are currently removing a bunch of the old sludge from the Paiatua site. It's currently been disposed of at CHB. I just thought it is quite a large team works for ourselves anyway, and I just thought I'd just highlight that and put a few other photos in just so you can understand the picture. There is a highlight as well around the proposed new wastewater standards, and I've included a link. There are some sort of assessments that have been made as to what that would look like for us and what sort of significant impacts they may have. At the moment, it's still a bit too early for us to actually tell what those implications genuinely are, but again, we are just monitoring those developments. Cool. I've included in there as well about the reticulation network, just where we're at. We know that the team's a bit strained with ongoing call-outs and reactive maintenance. It really directs them away from some of the renewal program, unfortunately, but I mean, it's just how it is. So the future considerations, though, is that there is new proposed engineering standards as well that we just need to be aware of for their budgets going forward. There are a few implications to that we'd look to, once we have some of those recommendations written out, we'll look at presenting them to another future ICCEM. That was quite a good highlight as to where we're currently at with those. And that we are currently working through some optioneering anyway for contaminated waste disposals. Cool. Northwood. I thought that was quite an interesting picture of the pipe to include for everybody to have a look at. The flushing's going really well at the moment, so I'll get another update as to where we're at with that. But yeah, she was pretty dirty, so it's looking good. It's cleaning it out really well.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Just on the Norsewood network flushing, you made comment of some isolated resistance to the installations. Can you provide any more info on what that was all about?
So that network itself has some of our reticulation network run through the back paddocks and fields and, the private property. So whether or not they were comfortable with us coming on site and installing a valve and to achieve a loop to be able to flush it was, some people were for it, some people were against it, some people wanted other pieces in play for them to actually allow us to do that, which we are unable to provide. So.
I was just going to make a comment, Mike. There's no doubt about it. The standards in Three Waters that are ahead of us now, or in our study we applied, are quite significant, aren't they? And from a budgetary point of view, and as we work towards a decision on local good or well done, there's a lot of implications here, isn't there? Really? But, yeah, so I think we're all probably pretty much aware of that. So thanks for bringing these things up, though, Mike. It's good to have them on our radar, actually. So thank you for that.
And I suppose the last piece there as well is our consenting and compliance. I think it's the last piece. Yep, good. Yeah. So we've submitted the annual reporting, so we'll hear back from that. There was no sort of real issues with doing that. The thing that I wanted to highlight though was that we had our annual compliance audit report on Ekatoon wastewater treatment plant. It is worth noting and highlighting that we have received significant non-compliance grading. That was for the last year in June 2024. It's issued on TC with regard to the Ekatoon wastewater treatment plant. I've written in there a bunch of it, but effectively they're having no further enforcement action we've taken on this occasion. It is essentially, to be fair, a good testament to our ongoing program with Having Horizons and Iwi both in the room as we've been working through in regards to say, like how we had that abatement notice the other year and what we're actually doing with the overall program. So they've effectively been quite happy with it. They just know that carry on doing what we're doing and getting it in by the dates that they've stipulated, which we will, and that currently, as you'll get the updates as well shortly on the Ekatoon side, it has been, we've had some really positive results and we are moving forward with the construction.
Questions there, councillors, for the Ekatohera? All right, good. Thanks for that, Mike. Joe, all yours for solid waste, thanks.
Here we go. Through you, Chair Carey. I take the report as read, and if I have any questions regarding, we did have the Wasted team last week, of course, but that will follow up with a full report next month on the stats and information that we got back from that. But it was reasonably successful, even though there was a bit of a low attendance rate. Best attendance was actually Dannyburg High School, the whole school, 600 odd. So, yeah. It was.
Councillor Sharon and then Councillor Scott, thanks.
Thanks, Chair Carey, through you. Joe, huge ups to the team that helped put together that education program. In the brief time I was there listening to Kate, I've changed my habits. I had no idea that some of the stuff I thought I was doing right, I was on a hide and do nothing. So well done you. I'm disappointed a little bit that the volume of people you might have liked to have had there were not as high as you expected, but well done for bringing that together. I do have a question to your report. I don't have it right in front of me at the moment, Joe, but I remember looking at the figures of the contaminated recycling versus the clean recycling, and you had a line of what was reported this month in those two categories. Are we making any progress on that, or do you think we're going backwards?
Respond through you, Chair Kerry. I feel like we go 2 steps forward and 10 back. So,
Okay.
yeah, good and bad days. But I mean, with every bin that we reject or remove, or every person we speak to, that's a little bit more that we don't end up with in the pile. But yeah, when the truck upends and you got black rubbish bags or you got rotten food, and it's just like, not getting anywhere. You just like throw your hands in there and go, I give up. But yeah, I mean, the 22 bins that we have taken away so far, that, you know, a couple we've reinstated under strict instructions, and they are on the audit list every fortnight, have, well, we've obviously reduced the amount we're getting. So we are winning, but we're losing at the same time. It's frustrating. And it was frustrating to have 0 people turn up at Ekanahuna's event, yet we went over to the town drop-off bin and put the phone up and got a photo of what was in there, and got purple rubbish bags, so somebody stuffed their rubbish straight in there. So clearly they need the education, or they need something, but...
No, it was that education, it was really good value, and you absolutely nailed the person presenting it.
Apparently it is common across other areas too, that they have low uptakes initially, but then of course the people that go there this time round talk and spread the word, and people get to know a bit more, and then you do a follow-up 6 months later and have a day-night session, and you end up with a lot higher numbers, because then they realise that it's not like an Amway thing or selling something, or, you know, because I mean she covers those things to start with, that she doesn't endorse anything or sell anything. It is purely
But
education.
even some of the things that, you know, you think you're doing right, when she told me that, you know, even if the bag says it's compostable, it's not. You know, basically she's saying if you can't eat food out of it, then it's not compostable. So some of that messaging was just being on to be able to remind people the reality of what we're up against here. And I think that the measure that I've asked about, the contaminated versus the uncontaminated, is obviously something we as council need to, across the months and years, monitor to see whether we are getting more than just 3 steps forward and 1 back instead. So thanks for that, Joe. Thanks, Chair Kerry.
Thanks, Sharon.
Thanks very much, Mr. Chair. I didn't attend that session, but I've heard universally good feedback about it, so congratulations. I just had 2 quick questions on the transfer stations part of your report, specifically talking about the break-ins in Woodville, noting that the cameras on site weren't able to pick up any information, and also just the illegal dumping at the site. So just 2 quick questions on that. Do we know why the cameras aren't giving us good information? Are we looking at positioning? And then the illegal dumping side of it, not for this report necessarily, but are we able to start quantifying the cost of some of our illegal dumping? So I think that's quite an important thing for us to have an understanding of, because it does seem to be going up, but what is it costing as we balance fees and charges and other parts? I think it just becomes an important piece of that puzzle. So just a request for that, but also very keen to get a bit more of an understanding on the camera situation.
Now we have the cameras are up at Paitua, but of course there's no power on site, so they're capturing a lot, but not capturing everything. So signal and power is a challenge. Woodville, we actually don't have anything there at this stage, but the whole time we've owned it, we have not had any issues at Woodville. It has actually been the last 2 months that we've done 2 padlocks have been cut to get through to Gerard Murray's yard. Yeah, so it's, but we have had somebody opening the back door of the rubbish bin, almost like a test to see if the operator just picks the bin straight up, because the contents would come out. Yeah, so silly buggers, but yeah, the padlock's been cut twice. We've now put a padlock on that can't be cut and a chain, so I'm guessing that gate's probably next. So we've saved the padlock and chain, but
Could I just add to that? Do they cut the chain or the padlock?
so far it's been the padlock. But we figured because the chain will be the next thing, they've actually put both on this time round.
Mayor Tracy, thanks.
Thanks, Chair Kerry. Really loved the presentations from Kate and learned a lot. So well done for bringing her along. When she visited, she went out to some of our sites and talked on the night that I attended, taking videos and bits. Will we use those for a little bit of education? And I guess, you know, a picture speaks 1,000 words of what the team does, but actually also what they find, because on the night, as she indicated, that was pretty bad.
Yeah, we're actually waiting for the videos to come back. They've done probably about 15 different short videos on different things, but yeah, she definitely did a bit of auditing with the guys and expressed, it was more expressionate than what we could probably be, because you might identify where they come from locally, you know, whereas she doesn't know. She literally just went through the pile and pulled out things that were at the gate, including black bags with maggots and straight rubbish and nappies. Yeah, so the raw, you couldn't have got it better on the day, I think, for her examples, I mean.
Yeah,
Thank
through you, Chair Kerry. So in your data collecting, I love data, what's the worst town in our district that's not playing games? Or not playing the game, I should say.
I don't think I should say today. It's difficult because you got to have the right containers for collecting, the right auditing happening in the areas as well. So it's not all uniform at this stage.
Yeah, well, I hope that number does come out, because we need to stand up and do a bit of name and shaming. Otherwise, and it's not actually the reflection on the town. The town might take ownership of it, and everyone can be a policeman. You know, I feel sorry because all the people in the town aren't bad. It's only a very small element. But if we can, that's what data's about. And if we can drive it and help you, you know, we don't want you to go through and come out, yeah, we've got the same stuff, you know, because I admire you and what you're doing, and but if we can help, that's what we need to do. We need to stand up and name and shame if it comes to that.
Thanks, Stephen. Are there any other councillors with questions here? I think, Joe, it is frustrating this, but it's a long game you have to play with education, don't you? And I'm sure the lady did get the feedback from people who attended was great, but you've just such a long game and a frustrating one, this rubbish, isn't it? The rubbish game and the recycling.
It's time to ramp up the auditing and remove some more bins that way we have them, when they want the bin reinstated, because obviously they're upset they lost it, then we get to have one-on-one discussions and they get the literature, but to try and teach them one at a time, we've got 5,000. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Joe. If there's no more questions, thanks very much, as usual, for your good report, Joe, and we all like what you're doing and trying to do. Thanks very much, Hamish, for a very good report, and obviously we've got some important workshops ahead with the metering and other issues. The Three Waters or local water well done is looming for us all. You know, if we could have a mover and a seconder then for 1.1, Councillor Mike. All in favour? Okay, carried. Thank you very much, Hamish, and your team. Right, we'll move on to 7.2. Peter. And Mitchell, I guess. Welcome, gentlemen, for that fairly full report here, which has all been interestingly read by everybody around here. So, in your hands.
Thanks, Chair Carey, and good afternoon, Mayor Tracy and councillors. I'd like to take the report as read, but would just like to point out we took this opportunity to review the Hawke's Bay review to compare on how our district is and compared to how Hawke's Bay responded in their response. Since our own response, there's been a lot of work gone on to make us more ready, make our communities more resilient. And that's just ongoing. That happens all the time, and we just got to keep working away at that. And although we had a number of the Hawke's Bay recommendations in place already, there were gaps that we identified, and some have been since we've filled those gaps, and there's still more work to do. But we'd just like to point out that even though we had a pretty successful response during Cyclone Gabriel, if it was one of our urban towns impacted, as it states in the report, we more than likely wouldn't be able to cope on our own for more than a day or two without getting surge staff in. So, Hawke's Bay got pretty hammered in the review, but they obviously had a widespread impact with their by all those cities and their outlying areas. So, and we could have potentially been the same way. And we got smaller staff than what they got. So we would be relying on surge staff and that coming in if they were available, of course. So have you any questions or comments or?
Perhaps I just made one comment here, Peter, on my. Thanks very much for that report, and I see obviously you and your team have had a good look at it and lined it up against your response and your reviews of what happened. But I just made, what did I make a comment the other night? Here we are. Yes. So Peter, from your perspective, do you and the governance teams do we need to sit down and have a review of it all? Do you expect or would like governance, either this council or the next, to sit down and have a look at this? Or are we pretty happy from where you're going at this point? I'm just wondering that, just what you're thinking as how it affects us as a governance team and where your team sit, or you.
Yeah, like I say, I think it's just work in progress. We just need to keep plodding away at it. We were going to be, for the governance team here, we were going to be doing an emergency management training, which I know some of the pre-existing councillors have done, but we ran out of time due to the LTP and that. Mayor Tracy and I tried to get several dates, but we just ran out of time. So that's maybe something that we will definitely do in the future, and that's probably going to be a good time to then maybe sit down and look at where we're at and where the governments think we should be going. And that's the other reason for this report, why we wanted to present it to you, so you can kind of see where we're at now and see what we still got to do, and yeah, we can go from there.
Thanks, Chair Carey. Thanks, Peter. In reading the report, it certainly indicates that we were probably better prepared than the other Hawke's Bay councils, or in a better position to provide the support that was required. And admittedly, there's a scale of devastation that came into that. But I think in many respects you're to be congratulated for achieving the level of response and maintaining it as well as you did. And there's you and several others, and iwi and many others to be thanked as well. But it's an interesting report. You make the comment about, if it was in the towns, I think we all appreciate depending on the devastation, it could well be beyond any one town or even the district to handle it for more than a day or two. And that's the case anywhere, I think, isn't it? But thanks for your efforts. It was well done. And thanks for the report.
Thanks, Peter. Councillor, Mayor Tracy and then Brian, thanks.
Thanks, Chair Kerry. I think reading the report, there's some good information there and some keys to go forward on. But one of the things I think that I highlighted it was just the lack of real river level data, and I think that's something for us to continue pressing with Horizons Regional Council so that we have better data coming in, especially what's happening out on the coast and some of those areas that are a little bit more distance from perhaps our EOC.
Thanks, Mayor Tracy. Brian.
Thanks, Chair Kerry. Just to add to that as well, I think there's been a number of reviews. I think Mike Bush conducted one, and there was the Sir Jerry report as well. And not forgetting, we also did a internal debrief after Cyclone Gabrielle as well, in terms of how we worked as our EOC and with our partners, etc. And so there have been quite a number of learnings. I think the next step for Peter and myself and everyone is to understand maybe where our gaps are in terms of, are we, adequately resourced? Do we have the right levels of training in place? So it's probably now we're in a good position to pull everything together and try and do a bit of an analysis of terms of what the next 2 or the next 3 years will look like from a planning perspective. And once again, I'm not saying necessarily we need more emergency management officers. I just mean, what sort of resources do we have available should the balloon go up, that we're prepared. And and it's always about creating those relationships. They're very important, and one of the things we are currently working on, and we have a agreement to do this, is with Central Hawke's Bay in terms of some I think, what are we calling it, Peter? I think surge capacity as well, so we can get to know each other's EOCs and also their staff, and how we can support each other going forward. And I think with the 3 waters, with that changes in terms of our councils down the south, it is something that I've already mentioned with the Wairarapa councils as well.
Thanks, Brian. Councillor Peter.
Yeah, thanks, Kerry. I guess it's not really the topic for this meeting here today, but one of the things I'd like an update on is tree planting setbacks, and whether we're going to be given the job of deciding what those setbacks are, or whether it's going to be handled on a national basis. But perhaps Tracy or somebody, Brian, might have some updated information on that, because clearly in our district, as far as flood problems are concerned, it's a growing problem, or future problem, is slash. That's going to create the damage to our bridges and roading network. We need to be in a position to mitigate that.
Thanks, Peter. I'm sure that will be something for somebody going forward. Just as we're talking, it just reminded me, Councillor Steve and myself attended a local water well done. The last one we attended prior to we got into the consulting was the gentleman in charge of the emergency management response in Masterton. I think the shared council one did come and talk to me, and I think possibly Steve, just to pass on his thanks and ongoing. He wanted to thank everybody, including Brian and the team, for the support he got, and from here with his. They came up a number of times, I think, and got help from our team and Peter, and said they learnt a lot in a very quick time when the pressure was on. And just wanted this group, or Steve and myself, to pass it on to Brian, Mayor Tracy and Peter. So, but they did mention that in the meeting too, to which was all the councils were attending, which was great. So just on the side, thank you. So Mike, thank you.
While we're on that subject, the slash, the other issue will be a fire risk that's going to increase in future, so that has to be in front of mind as well. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Councillor, there's no more on this. Thanks, Peter, for a very good report, and I think that's just put it on the table for us to keep in front of us, and we do appreciate where you're going with it. I know it's important to you for a couple of reasons, actually, and it's important to us too as a district. But I think we all appreciated the relationships that came together under stress at a very quick time, and one of the nice things about a good community, isn't it? And relations with everyone, including the iwi. So Councillor, thanks for that. If we could have a move and a second for Peter's report. Councillor Nye and second Councillor Peter. All in favour? Against? Carried. Thanks, Peter and Mitchell. Yeah. Right, Council, we'll move on to, I think it is Mike again, isn't it? Portfolio report. All yours, Mike. Thanks. Mike, I'll let you can just run through what you want to do and then we'll flick through the sheets if you like, but in your hands for the moment.
Thank you, Chair. Back again. The portfolio stats, as you can see, I've just highlighted that. Again, we are just working through actually including all projects and programs into this, so that portfolio status is a reflection of all of the projects and programs and not necessarily just on the infrastructure side. One of the ones there that was a highlight, I suppose, was, some of the resourcing constraints are still a challenge, but we are working through those. And I would also assess that all the risks that we currently have in regards to impound supply and also the flushing wastewater programs as well as that they are effectively mitigated across the board. I'm happy to start stepping through, however, the Severstock project updates, and before we get to the project sheets, I'd also like to note that while they are currently in a different view for you all, one of those things is that we also unfortunately had our project coordinator had a bit of a hospital admission for about a week there, so that sort of affected. She does a fair amount of the work as well for helping out put this report together, so she's okay now. I just thought I'd just raise that at the moment before we get any questions as to why the current project sheets are in a different view.
Thanks for that. Councillor Peter, sorry.
We're up to this point yet, but under infrastructure project Lindau Walkway, I see design is currently on hold and it is assessed that the work won't be started this financial year. My understanding is that it is being processed and progressed as we speak, but perhaps Andrew, sitting behind you, might be able to add a bit to that. Planning.
We'll just get Andrew to pop
just
up
to relay it
just
for
pop
right
up
now.
to the chair, just a moment, Mike. Yeah. Just so the people are on screen can hear, Andrew. Thanks.
Yeah, so we've provided the draft design we showed last meeting for the NTTA with the request for funding essentially. So until we receive the notification of funding, we haven't progressed anything further since then. Additional to that, though, there is consideration. We have had feedback from KiwiRail about the using the rail corridor. There is a bit of a funding upfront required to progress that thought and for consideration, because KiwiRail require funding to assess that. So that is something we will need to bring back to the table at some point to discuss whether we want to commit to that at this point in time or wait till the funding comes through. So things are progressing, but essentially until we get that meeting after Anzac, we won't know where things are at. So.
Thanks, Andrew.
Mayor Tracy, thanks. Just need to liven your mute, your camera, your sound, Tracy.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, you're on.
Chair Kerry, my understanding is if we are successful with the recreational park funding, that funding work has to be completed in the financial year. hence I was chasing that up.
Thanks for that, Mayor Tracy. Andrew's just nodded to that. So. Back to you, Mike.
Yeah, is there any more questions, I suppose, on 7 stop for project updates?
No more questions. We'll go on to the project sheets. And thanks, councillors.
There's a fair amount of those ones, so.
Right, okay. I'll just go through these page by page, councillors, and if there's any questions, put your hand up. So, land stabilisation. Dannevirke impound supply. We've had a good overview of that, thanks. District water network metering, universal metering. Okay. Three Waters infrastructure enhancement project. Infiltration and inflow.
Sorry to interrupt. Can I just have a quick one on that Dannevirke treated reservoir? So one of the parts as well to highlight is that the ground has currently been deemed suitable. So we are progressing with that further now. We will look at starting some negotiations into the land and how we go about doing that. But we are progressing again. We are progressing again some of the design work as well in line with that. And again, that falls into how we would do the overall reservoir program. And at the same time, we're also using the same part to do the geotech investigations as well for Woodville. So that's just currently underway, but seeing really positive. And as a program as a whole for the Dannevirke impound as well, as that clarifying it is, we are looking at drafting up a specification for that. One of the highlights to know as well is that Thames Coromandel is also looking at going out for a clarifier of a similar nature. And we're just going through some of their design specs as well and how we could look at tailoring that. There's no point reinventing the wheel, but that's how we're working forward with those two.
Thanks for that, Mike. Councillor Steve.
Just moving one forward, Chair Cherry. You was going to say it, Chair Carey. On that district water universal metering, it doesn't seem a lot of money, or isn't there a lot of meters?
So the project sheet there is for this current financial year. The lifetime of the project is, and the LTP is, it is significantly more over the next few years. The next financial year will be a bit of a pilot, and the follow-on years of that, that is just this current year as to drafting everything up and getting it all ready. Again, it would be part of a workshop because the universal water meter in there, we also have to have a bit of a conversation around the backflow as well, because it makes sense, both financially and operationally, to also look at installation of backflow at the same time as we do universal metering.
Cool, that clears it up a little. Thank you.
Right, we've got water infrastructure report, infiltration, Woodville headworks refurbishment. Skater upgrade. Ekatahuna wastewater treatment plant. Had that. Building area capacity. Future community urban design. Skip one. Oh.
I think you may have missed a couple there. I think, Chair, there was also
sorry,
apply here to a wastewater.
Let's go back. Pie to a pool. Councillor Scott, thanks.
Thanks very much, Mr. Chair. Just wanted to thank you, Mike, for putting the detail into that report, something that we're able to share with the community. So I know that I asked for that to come back, but I just wanted to acknowledge it and say thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Scott. I think I may have missed one, but let's go back one. Pie to a wastewater treatment plant. Okay, we've got pie to a pool. EV capacity. Digitisation of F records. I did have a question there, Mike, actually. I just see a note. What? E-services. I looked at the report. So have we completed the completed digitalisation of all the records. Has that been completed? I see we're on to part 2, aren't we there? So have the records all been done? I was just interested in that.
We are actually in the final stages of that. There's probably like another about week or 2 left worth of what's known as our alchemy boxes for those ones, but the majority of our records actually have been digitised and put through. So we're probably about 98% of the way through our digitisation.
Oh, that's really good news, Mike. Thanks for that. And yeah, been some years actually, Mike, long time going. Future community design. Okay, that seems to be everything. There's something nibbling away at my mind there. Not, maybe, remember tomorrow. Happens when you go away for a while. Right, Council, that's Michael's program report. If we could have a mover and a seconder for that, thanks. Councillor Scott, Councillor Erina, all in favour? Against? Carry. Thanks very much, Mike. Where are we at? There's no other items on the agenda. Ellie was there. All right, Council, if there's no more matters to discuss, we'll call the meeting to an end, and thanks everyone for being here, and thank you for our members on screens. Let you come home.